Hi, this is Gavin from Gavin's Gadgets. Hope you guys are keeping well. This is the Huawei Mate 20 Pro camera review. Very detailed. I've gone through the camera settings, UI, all the different modes, showing you the different options, the resolutions available, some of my tips and tricks as you go into those settings. Did you know what the underwater mode actually does and how you operate it? You will shortly. So check out that part first, then there's loads and loads of different footage so you can see what everything looks like. And don't forget, ask questions because I have answers for you. This is Gavin.
So before we go any further, I thought it'd be a good idea to actually run through the camera interface. As you can see, so top left you have all the various settings, and the resolution is preset at 10 megapixels, and that actually is the default resolution where it does the pixel binning. I certainly wouldn't recommend 40 unless using a tripod. And you also can select RAW format, which is supported in the Pro mode. The RAW resolution files are particularly good. You can add a watermark, turn on the location for the GPS. The Master AI is version 2. I definitely would recommend having that on. The assisted grid, you've got various options there. I always have a grid on, the first one. Mirror reflection, that's for the front camera as an option. Mute, so you can mute the shutter if you need to. Timer gives you a couple of seconds there, 2, 5 or 10. That's handy if you don't want any camera shake interfering. You can have capture smiles and the 4D predictive focus. And on the ultra shot, which is when you double press the volume down, you can either take a snapshot, open camera. I do recommend only having the camera so you can frame your shot properly. You also can choose different color profiles when taking. I always have standard. Some people prefer different ones. Motion picture enabled, that is another option. It's not my cup of tea. Flash, always on, off or auto. And then you have here, you can go into the various options here of identifying stuff. Barcode scanner is here. Shopping, which is Amazon, and you got translate as well. Let's come out of that. So quite a different number of options there. Now this icon here switches to the front. Let's do that very quickly. So on the front there's me, hi. You can select from beauty, and on the beauty stuff you actually have here smooth skin. Let's go back in. Let's come out of that one. That's the one I want. You can do smooth skin, thinner face, warmth, and you can have the tones there for that. It's all quite handy. You can turn it off and it does actually work. Photo booth, stained glass, folding blinds, which I quite like actually, pop, and stage lighting, which is not my least favourite. So there's options there. And then you also have here, you can have on your effects, you can have circles, hearts, portrait and discs. And the front camera is 24 megapixels. It also, you can see, has HDR automatically on. You do have the flash. Now when you're in each mode, you'll notice when you tap the settings, it gives you the respective settings for each of the actual modes you're in, which is quite handy. Just remember they change as you switch. Let's come out of the front camera a second, go back to the rear. Now here you have obviously portrait, and you have options for the rear portrait mode, which is very, very good. Night mode, which is a handheld up to 5 seconds, and it does beautiful night shots. Again, I will have samples on every single mode as appropriate. You can actually start using night mode manually by changing settings here and here. Aperture, on an aperture you can change the zoom level. Here you can change the focus point as well, and how much background blur. But aperture mode is great because afterwards you can pre-edit the shots which is really handy. Change the focus point, so if you wanted something in the background in focus, it's really good. And don't forget, when you take any of these aperture shots, that when you go to edit them in the official gallery app, you can even make the background, put background effects on the photo, so you have the bit that you wanted in focus in color and the background all in black and white, as an example. So good to know that sort of stuff. I'll cover video next. So in video, you have standard options here. You have beauty mode as well, but if you go to the settings in video, you'll see the resolutions go up to 4K. You have 1080p at 18:9 for a cinematic look. You even have 21:9 cinematic, 720p in 7 cinematic, 60 frames per second, and you can change the format to H.265, which I do, and notice beautification effects only work up to 720p, thank goodness. There is no 60 frames per second at 4K, but all the video modes are stabilized, just to help. It does have 4D predictive focus as well. So one thing that you have got, again, you can switch between the different lenses, 3 times optical in video. You do it while you're filming as well, 5 times. That's the ultra wide. It also brings in super macro mode, which can go up to just 2.5 centimeters away from the subject. And it's great using these different modes, really, really good. You can manually do and go up to 10 times, but I think 3 times is the sweet spot. If you need it, it's there. What you also have is these various AI modes, and I've got video demos of these: AI color, black, brown, blur, vintage, suspense, and fresh. Now bear in mind, when you have that activated, if you go into the settings, you'll notice that the higher formats are grayed out. You can still use cinematic 1080p at 21:9 ratio, which is quite handy, and something it might do for a future video. So if you want to go the high resolution, you must hit none and turn that off. Pro mode, you can use it for both video, which I'm modem in the moment, and in the video you can change the various focus options. You've got EV, focus, manual focus, white balance, and those are the settings there. Now obviously in photo mode, you've got all those other options. The ISO goes up to a whopping 102,400, and that's just obscene, but it does. Shutter speed can go from one end at 1/4000 up to 30 seconds. You've got manual focus, you've got white balance, everything you need in this these modes. You also obviously can control the zoom as well, which you can do in video and live when doing video, and you also have a sort of help system that tells you about the metering. You know, it really is a pro camera, you know. So the focus, choose from single shot autofocus, continuous autofocus, manual autofocus, and it tells you everything it does. So very handy if you need to know that sort of stuff. And again, in the settings, you have all the various settings. And what you do notice now in the pro mode is that you have AF auxiliary light. So you've got some extra things to help capture. Horizontal level, let's put that on, I do like that. And auxiliary light, that's quite handy as well. So you've got other things to help make photos even better. In the more menu, we have the rest of the options. Now you probably want to know about slow motion, and here you can tap here and you can change at the bottom between the different options. So you have 4 times 120 frames per second, that is at 1080p, that is at 720p, 240 frames per second, and you have the standard 32. You can do auto, on and off, where if you touch the shutter button and the camera detects a moving object in the frame, it will record a super slow motion. And again, here, just to clarify and show you, the resolutions are as I said they were, and there's the options for super slow motion. This is the panorama mode. You can do horizontal or vertical, which is pretty cool. In the panorama settings, you can actually look at the resolution there. It's just seeming a bit low, but that's what it is. Monochrome, now it's just the mode, there isn't a separate lens, and you've got normal, aperture, portrait and pro mode, all available in the monochrome with their various settings. And also again, you have all the various settings at work, which you can bring up when in monochrome mode. That's quite handy. AR lens, we'll do that last. Light painting, this is where you can do traffic trails, light graffiti, silky water, star trails. It does it automatically here. Options in the light painting, standard, vivid, smooth colours, and again the various settings are just the 10 megapixel resolution in that particular mode. So if you do HDR, and again it's pretty self-explanatory, you can use different lenses, and again in HDR 10 megapixel is the only resolution. To be honest, I don't think you need to use HDR on this camera. Auto is much better in my testing. Time lapse, so here it shows you a bit of information about the time lapse, and the resolution in time lapse is 720p, which again is a little bit disappointing, and it looks like there are no other options to do a time lapse. It looks like you can do a time lapse out the front camera as well. Don't know why you would, but you can. And we also have filters, so if you're into that sort of thing, you can use different filters. If you like watermarks, there are a whole host of different watermarks, and you can scroll between the different ones. And you can add these different filters as you wish. You can do them on time, location, weather, mood, food, sport, and that is all of them. So you do have those options if you're into watermarking everything. Photographing documents also has an underwater mode. So here it says please use a Huawei waterproof phone case for underwater photography, and it also says make sure you've sealed it properly, and when you use this, the hard buttons here operate the actual phone. That is pretty cool, and you can turn the screen on or off, and then you have here hold to exit. Quite a lot of options on this. Download, there are a couple other options here. Good food, watermark documents. We've got documents, we've got watermark. You do not need good food. AI does that automatically. And you know, I said to you it was worth using the Master AI. That's because it's version 2, and the scene recognition and contours has gone up from 500 to over 1500, so it can actually identify different breeds of dogs, for example. I think 32 different breeds of dogs. And in my testing, it's nowhere near as heavy as it was on the P20 Pro, and actually is helpful in taking photos, not a hindrance. So now let's go through and show you sample footage, video and photos, and I'll add commentary on each as we go through the different options. Now, I did mention there was one other last mode, that's AR mode, which you saw in the settings, and here it can map your face and do everything that you do, and it moves with tongue sticking out and everything. I am covering my face with the camera, so you can't see that, but you've got lots of different options to choose from, and they really are. See if I can get my face. There we go, just about. But I say the phone's blocking, the video camera's blocking everything, but you can do it with your tongue sticking out, everything. See if I get my head up here. Some have tongues, some don't, but really is pretty cool stuff, and there's lots of different ones here. And what you can do, you can have it either as a GIF or as a video. So if you want just the GIF, the expression, you hit that mode, and if you want to have it so it records a video, then you just hit record down the bottom and job done. I really love this wide angled. It's great for vlogging, great for reviewing, and I'm using one of the video modes called AI Color. It maxes out 1080p, but puts people, just people, in color. So I am wearing a black jacket, but my shirt isn't, and everything around me should be black and white. Pretty cool. I absolutely really love this, and you can shoot in wide angle, ultra wide angle, or the standard normal as well, and you can probably zoom in. So if we turn around and we look at the different effects, let's go in. There's some people over there, and look, there we go.
it works in the telephoto. Now in suspense. So this is the sort of vintage footage. So vintage. I do like this just to give it a certain flair along with the AI. Suspense, obviously predominant colour filters, but still really nice as it's doing this on the fly. This is video AI background blur. Just going to see how it works with sun. What I've noticed is you have HDR. It's got AI HDR on its default. I'm interested to see what this sounds like and what you think. Okay, so this is 30 frames per second at 1080p, and this is handheld. It's quite some tricky lighting. Just spin it around. Let's go and have a look. Focus point. And there we have. So this is 1080p at 60 frames per second. So now we're at 4K 30 frames per second. 10 minutes is the maximum run time on this. Checking the stabilisation. We're going into contrasting light. I've got some that suddenly appears, disappears. It will make a difference, but this is so much more stabilised than the P20 Pro. Unbelievable difference. so there we have it. That was the camera footage. For me, photos are excellent. There's so much capabilities with the 40 megapixel main sensor, the 20 megapixel ultra wide, and your 8 megapixel telephoto with the pixel binning from the 40 megapixel. There's obviously all the different modes. If you do go into pro mode, you have a lot of options. The raw data is excellent. Video, I noticed some weird audio issues, might be improved with a later firmware update. Occasionally my voice seems to echo. Also, it's fine in good light. I noticed it was, you can see electrical stabilization when it sort of jitters a bit in the lower lights. But the front camera seems to sort of boost the brightness quite a bit, but overall wasn't too bad. And stabilization, my god, stabilization is so much better. 4K 30 frames per second. I still think phones like the iPhone XS or the Galaxy Note 9 do video far better, and the XS Max I think is probably the best. Otherwise, for photos, I think this phone is pretty much unbeatable. Yes, it is better than the P20 Pro. P20 Pro is weak on video, and the Kirin 980 7nm chipset is a sort of league ahead. The other thing worth pointing out is because of the dual NPU in the new Kirin 980, you do get these video AI effects, and I particularly like the AI colour and also the background blur. They sort of work on the fly, gimmicky, but they do make video look a bit more interesting. In terms of the front camera, the 24 megapixel front camera, it also does pixel binning, but it does brighten up the image quite a lot. And both the rear and the front images, they do sort of have, even with no beauty mode attached or on setting, there is a slight beautification, a slight softening of the photos. I actually quite like that, to be honest. It doesn't look too bad. Others may think differently. But overall, you've seen the footage, you can make your own mind up. What do you think? Let's have a discussion in the comments. This is Gavin from Gavin's Gadgets. Keep well.